Celeste Wynn's world radiated only in shades emitted by computer monitors, electric blue spilling over scattered circuit boards and coffee-stained notebooks. The attic apartment she rented above an abandoned bakery suited her craving for anonymity. The creaky stairs discouraged delivery people from coming all the way up, and the single dormer window faced a brick wall, so no neighbor ever tried to wave. Solitude, though, was never absolute. Miso, a silver-striped cat with a perpetually quizzical expression, patrolled the keyboard and meowed whenever Celeste sank too deeply into code. The coder liked to imagine the meows formed sentences, but her rational side insisted they were random vocalizations. Still, she wondered what Miso would say if he could bypass the species barrier. The question lodged in her mind one January night while she debugged a failed freelance project, and by dawn it had grown into a blueprint for a new obsession, building software that would translate animal emotions into colors humans could instantly grasp. She started with a self-soldered collar for Miso, embedding a low-energy heart rate sensor, a gyroscope to measure gait, and a microphone tuned to ultrasonic chirps. A smartwatch strapped to Celeste's wrist served as base station, relaying raw data to her laptop, where convolutional networks parsed patterns against a small dataset she scraped from veterinary journals. When Miso snuggled into Celeste's lap, the app's interface glowed a velvety indigo. During 2 a.m. zoomies, it burst into neon chartreuse. Over several weeks, she convinced herself the color spectrum aligned uncannily with what her gut told her about the cat's moods. It felt like proofs off, shimmering proof that empathy could be engineered. Pleased but exhausted, Celeste intended to polish the project leisurely, release the code on an obscure forum, and retreat into her freelance contracts. Then, while doom-scrolling, she stumbled across a local news clip. Lakeside Paws, the only no-kill shelter in the county, was on the brink of closure. City funds had been diverted to renovate the marina, and adoptions had plummeted after a misinformed social media rumor claimed the shelter harbored aggressive dogs. Staff had 6 weeks to raise a near-impossible sum, or the property would be sold to a developer eager to bulldoze it for luxury condos. The broadcast showed rows of animals behind chain-link doors, eyes hopeful, tails languid, bathed in flickering fluorescent light. Celeste's chest tightened. Through her headphones, Miso purred against the microphone, his collar radiating a lavender that her app tagged concern. She recognized her own feeling in that hue and realized the prototype might do more than satisfy intellectual curiosity. It could help those animals speak for themselves before time ran out. After 2 hours drafting and deleting messages, Celeste sent an email to the shelter's director. Jordan Rivers replied within minutes. If you have something that can help us share what the animals feel, we'll welcome any idea, no matter how weird. 2 days later, wearing an oversized hoodie and gripping a duffel of equipment, Celeste stepped into the tiled corridor of Lakeside Paws. The rust-tinged scent of disinfectant mixed with wet fur slapped her senses, and the chorus of barks rattled her nerves. Jordan, a tall man with kind eyes and perpetually rolled sleeves, guided her past kennels until they reached Hazel, a beagle mix whose adoption file read, "Anxious but affectionate once she'd trust you." Celeste knelt, careful not to force eye contact. Hazel's tail thumped tentatively. Celeste's hands trembled as she fitted a smaller version of Miso's collar around the dog's neck and opened the app. A muddled gray blob appeared on the screen, swirling between slate and pale blue. Hazel whined, then sniffed Celeste's palm. The blob resolved into a gentle turquoise, Celeste's algorithmic label for curiosity tinged with caution. Hazel's ears perked. Jordan's jaw dropped. "So that's her color right now?" he asked. Celeste nodded, relieved the device hadn't frozen. Jordan fetched a squeaky toy and tossed it. Hazel bounded after it, the turquoise brightened toward cerulean, the app marking the edge of playful delight. "If adopters could see that, they'd understand she isn't scared, just cautious," Jordan whispered. Celeste's cheeks flushed behind her hoodie. For the first time in months, someone looked at her not as a reclusive freelancer, but as a partner in possibility. She spent the next 3 weeks commuting to the shelter every other night, tweaking firmware beside rows of dozing animals. She mapped datasets, linking heart rate variability to adrenaline spikes, built filters for tail velocity, and cross-referenced vocal harmonics with peer-reviewed studies. Kittens didn't fit collars, so she designed Velcro vests, embroidered with flexible LEDs. The colors themselves mattered. She chose hues humans intuitively linked to feelings: warm oranges for contentment, forest greens for security, glacial blues for sorrow. On Jordan's suggestion, she added subtle sound cues for people with color blindness, a soft chime accompanying the visual when an animal felt joy, a low hum when stress climbed. They called the system color feel. Technical hurdles piled up. The algorithm misread a chihuahua's shivers as rage because tremor data resembled aggressive vibrations. An adopter nearly left an alarm. Celeste spent a sleepless night reweighting variables, wrists aching, mind replaying the disappointed look the family had given the shelter volunteers. She worried Colorfeel might hurt more than help. In a moment of despair, she nearly deleted the codebase, but Miso trotted across the keyboard, collar pulsing Amber Celeste's tag for concern fused with confidence. The cat headbutted her chin until she laughed. She decided mistakes were part of translation. Even human interpreters revised their dictionaries. Meanwhile, the shelter's deadline loomed. City Council published a notice. Property auction scheduled for the first weekend of April. Jordan calculated they needed $100,000 in pledges or proof of sustainable revenue. Traditional fundraisers barely dented the total. At a staff meeting, he scanned weary volunteers. "We need something revolutionary," he said. All eyes shifted to Celeste, half hidden behind her laptop, a stylus twirling between trembling fingers. An idea surfaced, bold enough to terrify her. "What if we host an adoption fair?" she murmured. "But center it around color feel, let the animals show how they feel in real time. People might connect faster, donate more." Jordan's gaze warmed. "A showcase of living emotion," he said, "like walking into a painting that paints itself." They scheduled the event for the Saturday before the auction, leaving Celeste 12 days to perfect a system that still spat erroneous scarlet flags when goats bleated at a neighboring farm. The next misstep nearly broke her resolve. During a calibration session, Miso vomited a hairball. The collar spiked magenta Celeste code for excitement instead of sickly green. Jordan, watching over video chat, pointed out the bug. Humiliated, she shut her laptop and crawled beneath her lofted bed, recalling middle school memories of class presentations where words tangled in her mouth. If she couldn't even translate her own cat, how would she stand on a stage with news cameras? At dawn, she drove to the shelter, parking before staff arrived. The quiet cages echoed her pulse. She sat cross-legged in front of Bristle, a senior pit bull wrongly labeled unadoptable for years. Celeste detached the collar. The interface began in muted maroon her shade for resigned sadness. Bristle rested her graying muzzle on the bars. Celeste whispered, "I'm sorry it's taken us this long." She slid fingers through the gap, scratching the spot behind Bristle's ear. The dog's eyes softened, the maroon melted into burnt sienna, then honey gold. Celeste blinked back tears. The code hadn't failed. She had simply sought certainty from abstractions instead of relationships. She jotted notes. Proximity to trusted human has multiplier effect on oxytocin markers. She realized accuracy would improve less through mathematical contortions and more through context, the emotional loop between species. Pretergized, she rewrote the training routine, feeding the model new variables, mutual gaze duration, micro freezes in body language, volunteer tone of voice. She moved most computation to edge devices so callers could react instantly without draining batteries. 3 sleepless nights later, Colorfeel stabilized. Even the mischievous ferret, Whisk, produced consistent teal patterns that aligned with caregiver observations. The adoption fair dawned beneath clear skies stitched with contrails. Volunteers festooned the fenced courtyard with banners reading, "See me, feel me, take me home," each letter painted in gradients corresponding to Celeste's palette. Collars and vests were fully charged. Tablets mounted beside enclosures mirrored each animal's current hue. A local tech shop donated 3 projection screens that swirled ambient colors aggregated from all devices, turning the shelter yard into a living aurora. Celeste, white-knuckled, stood behind a demo table, sipping lukewarm tea and pretending not to notice the camera crew from Channel 7. Families trickled in, led by curiosity. A toddler approached Baloo, a lumbering mastiff whose chart previously intimidated most visitors. Baloo's collar glowed gentle peach, the interface labeling it protective affection. The toddler giggled, the father knelt, reading the label aloud. Baloo wagged in slow motion. The peach deepened. "He's not scary at all," the child declared. Moments later, paperwork began. Nearby, an elderly woman hesitated before a cage holding Finch, a one-eyed tabby. Finch's vest shimmered seafoam, the code's shorthand for tentative hope. The woman whispered, "It's okay. I'm nervous too." Seafoam brightened to spring green. They left, together in less than an hour. Word of mouth spread through the fairgrounds faster than any press release. People crowded in, smartphones raised. When stress crept up, detected by spiking cortisol markers, the collars dimmed and volunteers ushered animals to rest tents, teaching visitors that consent applied to pets as much as humans. Donation jars filled, then overflowed. The online portal Jordan had set up pinged with each new pledge. Notifications sounded like rainfall. By late afternoon, they had surpassed $80,000. Celeste's hands shook less now. Each time she refreshed the dashboard, the number climbed. Jordan hugged her impulsively. Her face swirled crimson, which, if Colorfield had included humans, would have broadcast a cocktail of exhilaration and embarrassment. Mayor Delgado appeared near sunset, flanked by staff and the real estate developer who coveted the land. The developer smirked at the spectacle. "Pretty lights," he said, "but feelings don't balance budgets." Jordan invited the mayor to meet Bristle. Cameras converged. Bristle's collar glimmered gold the moment Jordan opened the kennel. The mayor, rumored to distrust pit bulls, reached out hesitantly. Gold rippled into luminous amber. A hush fell. Delgado exhaled. "She's happy to see me?" Celeste nodded. "She senses you're giving her a chance." Reporters captured the moment. The developer's smirk faltered. As dusk painted the sky, Miso, secured in a travel backpack because Celeste couldn't leave him home on such a day, poked his head out. His collar strobed kaleidoscopic violet, the algorithm's pride and mischief. Children squealed. Someone hoisted him gently onto the projection stage. The swirling violet blended into the aggregated aurora. Spontaneous applause erupted, echoing off kennel walls like surf. By event's end, the pledge total read $123,547. Jordan saved a PDF of the tally, emailed it to every council member, and uploaded it to the city clerk's portal before midnight. The outpouring continued over the next week from viewers who watched the news segment. When the council convened for the auction hearing, citizens packed the chamber wearing Colorfield stickers indicating their chosen companion animal's hue. Dogs outside wore collars glowing hopeful greens. Cats peered from carriers bathed in sleepy rows. One by one, speakers testified to bridges the technology had built. The autistic child who finally felt understood by a rescue rabbit, the war veteran whose terrier's steady blue helped ground panic attacks. Numbers mattered, but the story's bursts of living color sealed the vote. The council unanimously reversed the sale. The mayor announced a new municipal grant for innovations that deepened human-animal bonds. Citing color feel as catalyst, Celeste almost skipped the post-meeting celebration, daunted by crowds and fluorescent bulbs. Jordan coaxed her in with promises of dimmed lights and a quiet corner. When she arrived, volunteers had replaced overhead fluorescents with string lights shifting through her palette. A cardboard sign read, "Thank you, Celeste and Miso." Bristle lay at her feet, newly adopted by a postal worker who promised daily ear scratches. Celeste stroked the dog's head and felt an unfamiliar warmth, community ripple through her. She decided to open source Colorfield's core libraries under a humane license, ensuring shelters worldwide could use or improve the system as long as animals benefited. By autumn, videos circulated of puppies in Mumbai glowing tangerine beside laughing children, of elderly horses in Montana bathed in calm cobalt to ease end-of-life care, of a snowy owl in Norway whose sapphire plumage signaled readiness for release. Universities requested internships under Celeste. Corporations offered buyouts. She declined them in favor of a cooperative she and Jordan founded where profits funneled into rescue networks. Her attic apartment felt smaller each evening she spent there alone, so she moved into a renovated wing of the shelter, converting storage closets into a gleaming lab painted eggshell white to showcase whatever colors the collars cast. One late spring morning, Celeste walked with Jordan along the lakeside path behind the shelter. Miso trotted between them on a leash, collar glowing soft periwinkle contentment. A breeze ruffled Jordan's hair. His smile mirrored the hue. "Do you ever miss the quiet?" he asked. Celeste considered. The shoreline had once been her screensaver, a digital scene she stared at while coding. Now, gulls cried overhead, real water lapped the embankment, and bristled barked from the yard, a ribbon of amber among daisies. "Sometimes," she admitted, "but colors look richer outside a monitor." Miso chirped, and the periwinkle brightened. Celeste recognized the label, belonging. She slipped her hand into Jordan's. His pulse quickened. If colorful vests fit humans, she imagined they'd swirl in sunrise pink. For the first time in her life, she felt no urge to translate the moment. The color was enough, speaking fluently between all hearts present, decoding nothing yet revealing everything.